Hey everybody, it's Gail and this is Errata-Hate episode 69, and today, building off what I showed you last week in episode 68, today, using post stitches, I'm going to show you how to do a very simple cable pattern. And I mean like as simple as I could possibly make it while it still looks like a cable. If you watch the technique video I did about cross stitches, that's going to come into play a little bit because cables are just deciding when and when not to cross various stitches using post stitches. So I'm just gonna flip the camera around, get right to work. If you look down in the basement, there will be a link to a Google Doc that will allow you to get charts for what I'm about to show you and let you practice a little bit more if that's something you want to do to kind of build up your skill. And I mentioned it in the last video, and I'm going to mention it here as well, that 68 and 69, these two technique videos I'm doing, will feed into episode 70, which is the how-to to end this batch of episodes. It's not a necessary skill to have. I actually kind of came up with it backwards. I ended up doing the cable on the how-to, and then was like, oh, I could do videos about how I did that. So don't worry about it. It's just something I added as I was working. You don't need to have it to complete the how-to coming up next week. So, all that said, flipping around, and we'll get right to work. Alrighty, so I have my starting double crochets here. I have 14 on this row. I just kind of picked a number at random. I have my starting chain 2 and my first double crochet in this row. And so now what I'm going to do is yarn over and complete my first post stitch, which is the beginning of this cable pattern. And again, the cable pattern, there is a link to a PDF of a chart for this down in the basement. I think I said that in the intro. I don't remember. Anyway, so the first thing we're going to do is a front post double crochet. So we're going to go through the stitch, and we're going to just work a double crochet around that post. If you need a little more practice on your post stitches before you get going, episode 68 shows you how to do these stitches, and it also has a little PDF linked in the basement to give you something to practice with. So there's that first part of the cable stitch. And so now in this next stitch, I'm going to work a regular double crochet because I want to have kind of a border around my cables. And then I'm going to come into the stitch following that, do another front post double crochet. There we go. And then now I'm going to do the actual part of the pattern that is considered the cable, and you consider it a cable when you're crossing stitches, and so that's what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to skip this stitch for now, and I'm going to do a front post double crochet in the stitch next to it. Whee! And then I'm going to go back to that skip stitch and do a front post double crochet to cross these stitches. And then I am going to do a front post double crochet in the next stitch, and then I'm going to work a regular double crochet. And then I'm going to work a final front post double crochet. There we go. And then just work my way over to the end. Now when I'm working with cables, I do actually space them correctly so that they end and begin with the same amount of starting stitches. This is just something I whipped up real quick though, so it's not centered on these stitches. So let me just end this row here. One more to go. Just picking up the first chain 2 here. All right, so having done that, we can now see, looking at it, there we go, where our post stitches are sticking out. And you can kind of see the beginning. You can see here where they've crossed. If you haven't worked cross stitches at all before, episode 53, I showed you how to cross stitches. I did not do them as post stitches, but you can see a little more of that technique if that's something you want to practice on. So having done this first row for this cable, I'm going to go ahead and start the next row of the cable. And the thing is, this is intentionally a very, very easy cable pattern. And as you start looking more at cables, you're going to be seeing that there are rows where you cross and then rows where you don't cross, because that's what's creating sort of the circular look of a lot of cables. But that's not where I'm concerned about right now. So that's not, you know, this is just getting you into the practice of making cables so that you can do those other ones. All right, so I'm back up at the post stitch over here, and this time we're going to do a back post double crochet, which is why I'm grabbing it back here. And we're doing it as a back post double crochet because we need it to all line up on the same side. And so the way we do that is we alternate the post stitches on every row from front to back so that you get the correct layout of the posts. Okay, we're going to work a regular double crochet in that next stitch. There you go. And now we're going to come up here and do a back post double crochet. We pick that right up. Okay. And then we're going to work, and this is where it can get a little bit tricky because you got to kind of get used to working with it. So we have these two cross stitches we just did. So we're going to come out to the second one, push it out, and do that back post double crochet on it to pick up that same pattern. And then we are going to come right over here, and I find it easier to sort of half turn my work so I know where my hook is going in order to do this. And so now there is that second cross, and so that's going to continue to be a cross stitch. We're going to work that next post stitch as a back post stitch. Whee! And we're going to work a regular double crochet, and then that final post stitch will also be a back post stitch. And then we'll just finish off this row, and I'll turn things around for you. And so once I'm done with this row and I turn it around, if I was going to go ahead and do the next row, I would be working the front post stitches again, and then when I turn it around, I'd be working the back post stitches again, and I would just keep going. And what you see here with this ridge and then this middle twist is my cable pattern, and it will continue to look like this as you continue building it up. And I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory from here. Here are the two ways you need to do it. Now, the one thing I do want to give you a tip on, because I can get sort of turned around when I'm working on these projects, is, you know, remember you want all your ridges on the same side. You want them all poking out of the same side, and the back of your work has a very distinct look to it in terms of an edge. So that will help you remember which is the back of your work, and the back of the work is where you do the back loop, not the back loop, excuse me, the back post double crochets. So on the front of the work, you're doing the front post. On the back of the work, you're doing the back post, and that can be very helpful, especially as you decide to work on cables that are more involved than this in keeping up with what side you're on. So that is a brief example of how you do this cable pattern I've come up with. It will come up in episode 70, which will be a how-to. And it is not absolutely necessary for the how-to, it's just something I did, so I decided I wanted to do this as well. The example PDF down in the basement that will show you this cable pattern as symbols, I will have more rows than this on that pattern so that you can see it a little more. But in terms of what to do to build this, this is how we do it. So that's all for this episode. I'm really looking forward to episode 70. I think you'll really enjoy the project. I hope so. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye.